I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Julpy and Ghosty.
This is kind of like a special delivery.
Yes.
Cradle of Filth has just released a new lyric video song, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to listen to it. The name of the song is called Lustmord And Wargasm. So you got a bonus
right here.
Here.
It says the lick of carnivorous winds.
There you go.
That must be the interpretation.
Well, back in the day, they used to have this poetry that had all this this goodness in it. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
I should have acted like I totally knew that. I believe the interpretation for that is the lick of carnivorous winds, if I remember my proper translation. All right. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
And?
For timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori.
Go.
Okay.
Whoa, okay.
Standard Cradle of Filth. Brilliant. This song is almost 30 years old. Almost.
What?
Well, not 30 years old. It was 1998, so closer to 20 years old.
What do you mean? This is a cover?
No. It came out in 1991.
Why did somebody say that this is a new song of theirs?
Well, they just released this video. The lyric video is brand new. But because we're so ignorant of Cradle of Filth.
Okay, so that's why I couldn't find it. I'm like, I don't see any new songs.
Where are they? They're listening up.
Okay, all right. Let me see what you did there, Kevin.
I'm not even mad at the big homie. Very intrepid guy. Sometimes you gotta call that in from deep, you know what I mean? Maybe they'll do it.
Yep.
Maybe they'll do it.
Banked on our stupidity. Anyway, I mean, I really enjoyed it, actually. This is right up there. First of all, if I was to take a guess at what it was, because, you know, I was focusing on the music, obviously. So, but if I was to, it seemed like it was kind of talking about, in the world, there's like lust and talking about war. Kind of sounded like the both sides of the coin, like the different things that take place within the heart and soul of human beings.
What he does with lyrics are absolutely amazing. Like, you know, when he says Adam and evil.
Yes.
You know, like,
yeah.
Smart. I just appreciate smart writing.
Yeah. So, did you kind of get that too? Like, where it was like the...
Well, the irony of this whole thing is, before we went to cut this video, I was watching a little documentary on the big homie Azazel and Shemyaza, which are these angels in the Book of Enoch who were kind of the ringleaders of going down to cohabit with women. And Shemyaza is saying, man, I feel...
Is this in Jewish theology or... Oh,
yeah, Enoch. Yeah. So they're like, yo, let's go get these girls. And then Shemyaza's like, I don't really think God's going to agree with this. And then I'm going to be by myself and I'm going to have to face the punishment myself. So they're like, nah, fam, we'll all do it together. So we'll all, you know, reap the benefits and the punishments, whatever they may be. And so Shemyaza and the crew go down there and, you know, do what they do with women. And then he gets blamed as the ringleader. And then you have Azazel, who basically taught mankind war and the arts of war and jihad and all that stuff. So, literally, I was listening to that, and then we went to this. So
interesting.
When you say an archangel in bondage, bediademed, sold, you know, like a diadem is a crown, right? So he's bediademed in the sense of like this. An archangel would be, you know, one of the princes of the angels, which archangels are called princes in Daniel. Whether they're good or bad, they're called princes. So, like, Israel has an archangel. His name is Michael. Michael, your prince. And then you have the Prince of Greece, he's a bad guy figure, but he's a powerful angel. So he's called the Prince of Greece and the Prince of... So, Prince of Persia, everybody's familiar with that term. But that phrase, Prince of Persia, comes from Daniel, and it's talking about a very powerful angelic being who is a ruler. He's a prince. So,
isn't there something in the New Testament, the Prince of the Power of the Air or something like that?
Yeah. Satan in Ephesians 1 or 2 is called the Prince of the Power of the Air. Well, a lot of people assume it's talking about Satan. I'm not sure that it's talking about Satan. It's just talking about a very, 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 very powerful angel in biblical cosmology. And what was interesting is Azazel was, I think it was Shemyaza or Azazel, were banished to the pit. And they were, I think the New Testament terminology is Tartarus, which is borrowed from, the bad place in Greek mythology. So it's a place of, I think Peter calls it a gloomy dungeon, and Jude calls it a gloomy dungeon. So...
there's a sense in which if you were in heaven and you got sent anywhere else but heaven, it would be a gloomy pit.
Sadaq, yeah, I'm not sure, because they left where they were in heaven in order to come down to cohabit with women. So apparently being up there wasn't good enough for those guys. It's just crazy.
Like that woman, that seems better.
It's a bad play, man. That is a bad play. So it says an archangel in bondage, bedied him sold with a murder of ravens, which is obviously very a group of a group of fish, dear listener, is a school. Huh? A group of pandas is an embarrassment.
That's weird.
That's literally what it's called. And a group of ravens is called a murder.
Yep.
Which makes complete sense when I think about ravens.
Yeah.
The pandas, it doesn't make any sense to me. Honestly. But no less Astarte to behold. So Astarte is, you have the variant Astarte, Ashtaroth, whatever. In the Old Testament, she was a female god. It was a Canaanite female goddess that was ubiquitous throughout the ancient Near East. And Astarte was one of the main goddesses in when the Israelites were being condemned for idolatry. Many times it was this, and when they would talk about these poles,
I was going to say, that's what I was going to ask you, if it had anything to do with that.
Right, the Asherim were poles that were erected for the honor of Astarte, and
didn't her worship have a lot to do with sexuality as well?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That was like the
for sure.
Yeah,
but it just so happened that their form of worship had to do with temple prostitution, all manner of sick sexual, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, and you even got to the point where, the Old Testament prophets were always condemning their fellow Israelites for their idolatry. And it was funny. Of course, I was talking to this atheist guy who, and no disrespect to atheists, but I was talking to this atheist guy who did not understand the Bible. So he's like, I have proof that there were female gods in Israelite, whatever. And so there's some archaeological digs that have Astarte as a wife of Yahweh, right? And so he's like, ha! And I'm like, I was like, yeah, that's recorded a lot of times in the Old Testament because they were constantly being attacked by the prophets because of their worship of Astarte.
Yep.
And it stands to reason that them marrying Astarte to Yahweh was their way of trying to say, no, we can have both.
Right.
Yahweh's our father, Astarte's our mother, we're good. And the prophets were, there'd be no reason. That's exactly what you would expect.
Yep.
So he was like, this is a dirty little secret that they didn't tell you in seminary. He was all wild eyed. They didn't tell you about this in seminary, did they?
Were you live with the person?
No, this was years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I was a lot less refined, so I just laughed at the guy and I was like, you don't know anything, you idiot. But now I've changed. Now I just think it in my head. And I don't say it.
Oh, then that's better.
They didn't tell you about this in seminary, did they? Abandoned by heaven to the dead, darkened past, cast her dispersions on life's brittle glass. You know what's interesting is there's demons in the bad spirits in the Old and New Testament are almost 100% of the time masculine figures. There's only one time in the Bible, it's in Zechariah. And there are these demonic entities that are addressed as female, but that's one time. The majority of the time,
what happens in that story?
It's the one where he opens the basket and the stork comes out and he says, "What's the name of the stork?" And it's wickedness, but the stork is used in a feminine language. So it's the only time in the Bible where that happens. So the Asherim, Astarte, etc., they're alluded to. But as far as an actual what we call demons or bad spirits or whatever, they're majority of the time looked upon as male.
That's interesting.
So there's your misogynistic Bible.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay.
What do you mean?
Well, no, you just think if you grew up in the church, it just seems like women are demonized all the time for their feminine attributes,
Yeah.
How dare she have a body?
Right.
You made that man stumble rather than yo, you need to get a handle on your lust. It's just, maybe you can't understand the connection that I'm making, but there's this, but then you look in the scriptures and then when God is talking about it, he's comparing all these demons to males. You know what I mean? they're masculine, so it's just interesting that.
Yeah, it's in Zechariah 5. And then the angel who talked with me came forward and said to me, "Lift your eyes and see what that is going out." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "This is the basket that is going out." And he said, "This is their iniquity in all the land. And behold, the leaden cover was lifted, and there was a woman sitting in the basket!" Exclamation point. And he said, "This is wickedness." And he thrust her back in the basket and thrust down the leaden weight on its opening. Then I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, 2 women coming forward. The wind was in their wings. So right there you've got feminine, angelic type beings.
Yeah.
They had wings like the wings of a stork. Okay, so a stork was an uncleaned animal in the Mosaic economy. That's why most commentators say that these are demons.
Okay.
Because they're female.
Why was a stork
entities.
unclean?
It was just listed in the unclean.
Oh, really? Okay. That's interesting. And then the stork became the bringer of the babies in people's thought processes?
Yeah,
I wonder how that happened.
That's not the biblical. Whatever,
No, I know that's not the biblical, but...
And so they had wings like the wings of the stork. They lift up the basket between earth and heaven. So a lot of these people believe that these are powerful angels who they're female, but they're evil. And the evil is identified by the fact that they had the wings of a stork. So they're manifested that way so that Zechariah can know that they're unclean. Of course, Zechariah is a priest, so he would be preoccupied with clean and unclean.
When he says, so these two, they come up and they take the basket.
Yeah.
They lift it up between heaven and earth, and the angel said, who talked with me, "Where are they taking the basket?" He said to me, "To the land of Shinar, to build a house for it." Was that like a temple?
Shinar is the original location for the Tower of Babylon. So in Genesis 11, it sets up the narrative as Shinar, and then they build the Tower of Babel, etc., etc.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So these are extremely powerful beings from a biblical cosmological sense, and this is the only time when you specifically hear of a personified demoness. Mm-hmm. Demonesses are, and I'm sure there's millions of them out there, but
there's thoughts that the Tower of Babel was a ziggurat, which was basically like a giant temple.
Almost every modern commentator says that's.
I just think
exactly
it's interesting
what the
that they brought
Babel was,
wickedness over there to build a house for it.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that's like, whoa, okay, yeah, that really fits in.
Yeah, not a lot of Christians know about that, but yeah, there are female demons for sure. Well, again, these are demons. I don't have the time, but demons are basically, like male men. They're not.
No offense to our male people.
Yeah, the real powerful.
So many things wrong with what you just said.
The real powerful, or like demons are like YouTubers. You're not really that important. But like, it's not like the president or something.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
There's other class of beings called B'nai Elohim, things like that, and those are the mega powerful, angels, beings, whatever you want to call them, that run stuff. Demons are kind of not portrayed as very, very powerful. They're just like mischievous kids who whatever. But anyway, so that's stanza 1. But yeah, it's just very, very interesting.
Cradle of filth, y'all.
Yeah. And though her eyes still held fire, a stone wall caged the beast. Against the lassitudes of death she fought but fell to greet. And midst lies and collusion she was martyred to teach that divinity and lust are forever forbidden to meet. So basically, she is blamed for the Archangel's bondage, and she can't get him out. And she's kind of portrayed as a martyr, a hero, even though like she's a powerful demoness or whatever, which you would expect from Danny Filth. But then he starts speaking in the third. Well, what was interesting, divinity and lust are forever forbidden to meet. So that was kind of the situation with the Watchers, is what they're called. They, their job was basically to watch over humanity. Mm-hmm. That was their job, and teach us righteousness and teach us to worship Yahweh, and da. And they went rogue, and because of their lust per se. So the divinity and lust were not supposed to meet. Like you're a divine being, these are human beings, and there's supposed to be a distinction there. And they obviously did not believe that was a standing rule. Well, Shem Yazit did. That's why he was like, yeah, right. This is a good idea. This is not a good play. But I swore they would before the veil could part our embrace. I think he's personifying the Archangel there. Who, because the principle is Divinity and Lust are forever forbidden to meet, and then he says, but I swore they would, before the veil could part our embrace, twixt her cold silent hips I kissed, and promised Christendom in flames. So...
He's such a beautiful writer.
I know. And so it just goes on to talk about, you know, it looks like she dies because God supposedly cursed her, I think. So she dies, and then this angel promises vengeance on God and his people. So he promises, you know, Christendom in flames. Like, I'm going to destroy Christianity for this. Which is interesting because, historically speaking, all this stuff happened before Jesus came to the earth. But if you're a demon and you understand the plan of God, it's possible that you might, you know, go after Christianity.
Yeah.
To avenge her ebon splendor. So ebon is probably having to do with black, because you say ebony is black. So to avenge her ebon splendor and surrender my soul to the dead to achieve prophecies of libidinous scourge. You know, libidinous scourge would be about your sexuality going all over the place. It's pretty ridiculous, the way that this man can write.
I know. It's pretty ridiculous.
Vexing nightmares and their weak prayers to no one there to hinder her. Do you see that right there? Fixing nightmares and their weak prayers to a no one there. Meaning... No one is there. No one's there to listen.
Yeah.
No, you know. Well, I mean, shoot, man. In this cosmology, how could you say that?
Right.
But what he said... But the next line explains it. To hinder her decree. Because he's saying not even God is strong enough to stop this jihad, to weed the world of their disease. And then he said, if you go down here, I didn't want to miss it, but at the end when he said, it's at the very, very last verse, like second to last, as Zyklon beats rain to make carrion crawl. Okay, so...
Yeah, I didn't understand. Actually, I'm glad you brought this up because I didn't understand this part.
This is another very risky and brilliant lyric that I am not sure if the song like literally debuted today that there would be some serious issues. So Zyklon B, you know when Hitler sent the Jews to the gas chambers, the gas that he was using to kill them was Zyklon B. So as Zyklon beats, see that? So it's a double entendre. As Zyklon beats rain to make carrion crawl. So, you know, that's he's personifying human beings as carrion. The talons of lust rake a clarion call to look. So it's like, that's a risky line, you know, because, you know, but it seems like he's saying that the energizing force around Hitler and all that were demons. Whose goal it is obviously to wipe out humanity. So it's a very, very risky lyric, but also very, very brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, like as Zyklon beats. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
His lyricism is just the guy is just completely unmatched. It's ridiculous. I really, really enjoyed the guitar part on the chorus line.
Man.
It was like very black metal tremolo stuff. I'm a sucker for tremolo picking. Obviously, it was really, really, really good. Very epic. What do you give the song?
It's a 9 point. It's a 10. It's a 10. It's really good.
Yeah, it's a 9.8 from me. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to our Bible reaction video.
Shout out to the big homie Danny Filth for making this all possible.
Yeah. I think actually they did this song when we went to the Cradle show, and Lindsay killed it as she usually does. So there you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.